Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Police are gearing up for unprecedented security in Times Square New Year's Eve. While the annual celebration is one big party, it's also one big target. Our national security correspondent Eric Rosales shows us some of the added protections officers are taking.
The countdown is on to 2018. Every year, the NYPD does a threat assessment and adjusts accordingly. After murderous attacks in Lower Manhattan and Las Vegas, this year's security plan more robust than ever before.
3, 2, 1, Happy New Year!
Well, some preparations for 2018 are fun behind the scenes. NYPD top brass have been planning relentlessly, understanding the crossroads of the world may be in the crosshairs of someone with bad intentions. After a gunman killed 58 people from the 32nd floor of a Las Vegas hotel, experts predicted the NYPD would be quick to adjust security plans in Times Square. A high-ranking police source tells CBN News the NYPD reviewed Las Vegas and has decided to position some of its 7,000 officers monitoring Times Square inside every hotel along 7th Avenue on New Year's Eve.
People should expect to see an increase in security this New Year's because of the ongoing threat we've seen from ISIS. Really, over the past few years, they've sought to encourage their followers to carry out low-level attacks wherever they can, particularly targeting people where they gather in crowds.
After 2 terror attacks in New York in recent months, for the first time, parking garages closest to Times Square will be closed on New Year's Eve. Banned from this year's ball drop, backpacks, large bags, and umbrellas. One computer software tool the NYPD will be using is called Video Synopsis, developed by Dr. Shmuel Peleg with the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. The cutting-edge program allows police to monitor real-time hours of video in minutes and can even search for specific items such as men wearing only the color red. Dr. Peleg says whenever someone plans an evil action, they scout the area and prepare, and that's when his software will help.
You can take the entire night, and rather than watch 10 hours, you watch 10 minutes. And you can detect these people and try to check what they are planning.
Dr. Peleg says the technology was instrumental in identifying and leading the FBI to the Boston Marathon bombers in 2013. New York police will also increase the number of snipers it has on its rooftops, but even the NYPD admits it's not going to reveal all of its plans to keep those visiting Times Square and the rest of the city safe. Eric Rosales, CBN News.
At least a dozen people have died in what's being called the worst fire in New York City in nearly 30 years. It broke out inside a 5-story apartment building in the Bronx. Gusting winds fueled the flames in below freezing temperatures. It took nearly 160 firefighters more than 2 hours to put out the fire. The youngest victim was just 1 year old. Investigators are working to learn what caused that fire. American Christians had many reasons to celebrate President Trump's first year in office. Despite his unconventional ways, some leaders are calling him the most evangelical leader in the U.S. in recent history. CBN's Jennifer Wishon takes a look at 7 reasons evangelicals are celebrating 2017.
The positive relationship between evangelicals and this White House can be traced directly to President Donald Trump's policies. But the good vibes don't end here at the White House. Here are 7 reasons why evangelicals are celebrating 2017. Neil Gorsuch. President Donald Trump promised to pick a conservative, pro-life justice to serve on the Supreme Court.
I've always heard that the most important thing that a president of the United States does is appoint people, hopefully great people like this appointment, to the United States Supreme Court.
Remember this picture? Spontaneous prayer for the president in the Oval Office after a day-long meeting between evangelical leaders and White House officials. Keeping a key campaign promise despite threats and criticism from around the world, President Trump recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital and began the process of moving the U.S. Embassy there.
We cannot solve our problems by making the same failed assumptions and repeating the same failed strategies of the past.
It's seen as the fulfillment of biblical prophecy. A museum dedicated to the Bible opens on the National Mall.
We believe that the Bible speaks for itself. And You cannot read the Bible or come here to this place without understanding that Jesus is the Word of God.
Vice President Mike Pence, a pro-life evangelical Christian, occupies the second highest office in the land.
The sweetest words the president and I ever hear, and we hear them a lot, are when people grab us by the hand and say, "We're praying for you."
A weekly Bible study attended by members of President Trump's cabinet, some of the world's most influential people going through the Bible together verse by verse. Ralph Drollinger, founder of Capital Ministries, leads the weekly gathering and says nothing like this has happened in at least 100 years.
Best Bible study I've ever taught in my life. They are so teachable, they're so noble, they're so learned.
The Little Sisters of the Poor score a win for religious liberty at the Supreme Court. The Order of Catholic Nuns no longer has to provide insurance coverage for birth control and abortion-causing drugs or face a fine, which was required under Obamacare. 2017 was certainly a banner year for evangelicals. What more will the new year bring? Stay tuned to CBN News. At the White House, I'm Jennifer Wishon.
The United States Senate has yet to confirm President Trump's nominee for Ambassador for Religious Freedom. He's nominated Kansas Governor Sam Brownback. He did that back in July. Brownback is a former senator with a long history of standing up for religious freedom. He helped to craft the law that ensures the U.S. will consider religious freedom when making foreign policy. But Democrats blocked his confirmation vote because he repealed an order prohibiting discrimination against LGBT government workers in Kansas. Now, Brownback is just one of many of President's nominees' federal positions who've not yet been confirmed. There are about 200 unconfirmed selections, and that's about 2/3 of his overall nominations. When it comes to confirmations, President Trump has far less than President Barack Obama or George W. Bush had in their first year in office. Trump blamed Senate Democrats for slow walking the nominees. Democrats say it's the Trump administration's failure to move fast enough to get their people confirmed. The president will now have to renominate those appointees and send them back to the Senate for confirmation in 2018. An Oregon court ruled against the Christian couple who was punished for refusing to make a cake for a gay wedding. Aaron and Melissa Klein are owners of Sweet Cakes by Melissa, and they declined to make the cake in 2013 because of their biblical views on marriage. A state agency fined them $135,000, forcing them to close that business. And Thursday, the Oregon Court of Appeals upheld the agency's decision. At least 10 people died in a terror attack on a Coptic church in Egypt Friday. 2 gunmen stormed the church in South Cairo. Police killed one of the attackers, but at least 2 officers died in the attack. Egypt's Christian minority has been targeted by Islamic militants in a series of attacks since December of 2016. That attack left more than 100 dead and a number of others wounded. Be sure to check cbnnews.com for updates on this story. Still ahead, here on CBN NewsWatch, see how one Christian ministry in Israel is being a good neighbor and helping their enemies. Stay with us. Americans are among the most generous people in the world. That is according to a report by the UK-based Charities Aid Foundation. That report found 56% of Americans either donated money, volunteered time, or helped a stranger in need over the past year. Another study by the same group found most Americans give because they believe in the cause, not to get anything in return. What would you do if your enemy needed food and clothes and medical help? Would you help? That's what Israel decided to do in its Good Neighbor Project. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl takes a look at how Jews and Christians are working together to help Muslims.
It's called Camp Ishai, a Christian medical clinic operating inside the Israeli border under the protection of the IDF. It provides urgent medical care to Syrians caught in the middle of a 6-year civil war.
There are about 80,000 Syrians in this area that need medical attention. They arrive by truck at the Syrian border, and they come through a gate, and they're checked for security up there. And then they come through this gate right here into Camp Ishai, where they receive medical attention and love.
From the time they come through the gate, they become the most important people in the world. And we don't speak the language, so we have to speak the language of love.
Don and Sandra Tipton started friendships a Christian aid organization working with Israel's Good Neighbor Project to help the Syrians.
It's amazing to watch the transformation in these people when they're not under the oppression of war.
In their first 2 months, they've treated some 2,000 people.
We're putting in Wi-Fi and telemedicine, and when that comes in, we'll be able to treat 3 times as many because it will speed up the process.
This is where patients get checked before seeing the doctor.
Usually it's things like infections, and we had somebody with hepatitis today. There's rashes. So we do a lot of things that if they're not treated, they'll become serious. There are also war injuries and things that people come in and we can treat their infections and things. And we diagnose people that we're not able to treat, and we refer them to various outlets for further possibilities.
While incubators, birthing beds, and x-ray machines are on the way, that's not their biggest need.
Right now, we're in desperate need of people to play with the children and doctors and nurses. That's our main need. But we need people just to come and help.
That's because Camp Ishai goes beyond medical needs.
This is what we call our distribution tent. Every day when the patients leave, they get this bag full of goodies. It includes toys and clothes. And we have an area where they can shop for clothes that they like, just select what they like.
This is a children's room. These kids, they've been in a war since they were born. They're so happy in here. This is our trampoline. Young people just love it. The adults go nuts. And then behind you we have snow cones, and we have an ice cream machine coming Wednesday.
To the Tiptons' surprise, they found a great willingness in Israel to help the Syrians.
We were trying to find a way through Lebanon or Jordan to get goods into them, and it was a dead end. So we started working with our friends here in Israel.
We had no idea that we would run into such a loving friend in Israel, that they would have the same vision for helping these people as we did as Christians. So we have Jews helping Christians to help the Muslims.
After nightfall, CBN News accompanied the IDF on a mission along the Syrian border. We suited up in body armor and helmet and drove to an unspecified location.
I'm standing very close to the Syrian border, where Israel's Good Neighbor Project delivers tons of humanitarian aid to needy Syrians nearly every night.
Today we are putting 10 tons of flour for Syrian people. You can see the tractor taking all the flour from the big truck. We are doing it each day, 7 days a week.
Major A oversees the entire Good Neighbor Project here on the border. We've hidden his identity for his protection.
We deliver a lot of food, a lot of things for children, from toys, clinic things, all the basic food things. We deliver the things near to the fence, and they are coming and taking them.
Fighting has killed almost 500,000 people and left countless others wounded and homeless. Yet Syria maintains its stance against Israel. So why help?
This is the right thing to do, and this is what Israel country do. I love to do it. This is the best thing that happened to me in this duty.
Major A says about 250,000 Syrians live in the area that benefits from these deliveries. Does he think they'll remember the kindness when the war is over?
I really don't know, but I can hope that they remember.
And just as the Israeli support surprised the Tiptons, Major A has been surprised by the Christian help.
They are lovely people. This is the first time that I saw that a human being can be so generous and so brave and so warm and can give a lot of love. Today in the clinic, it's a Christian that make things happen with the Israelis, with the Jews, for the Muslims.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, along the Israeli-Syrian border.
Up next, he's shining a light on the life of Andrew Jackson. We continue our conversation with author and Fox & Friends host Brian Kilmeade. We'll return. Television journalist and history buff Brian Kilmeade's latest book explores the life of Andrew Jackson and the miracle of New Orleans. In the third and final part of our conversation, he shares the signs of history you can still find in the Big Easy today. Any big or visible signs if we visit New Orleans today you can think of?
They're all there. It's amazing. I believe it was Teddy Roosevelt that deserved most of the credit at Chalmette Battlefield. And I go back. And I go back with two historians, Ron Drez, known locally but should be known nationally, decorated Marine, and I go back with Douglas Brinkley. And we walk the berms that Jackson built, and we see roughly the canal in which he dug, his men dug, in order to fill the canal and build a wall to stop the British from going behind them. That's New Orleans. And it's all there. In fact, we flew drones that you can appreciate too, with cameras. Our cameramen become drone licensed pilot guys. This is a good idea for you. And they fly them up. And the state parks don't let you go directly, but we're able to see. So even though it's cleared, not as swampy and woodsy, you can see where the British came, and you can see what Jackson defended. And you can turn around and see where New Orleans is. And they said, essentially, now that we know they're here, I know how to block them. So he did what Napoleon couldn't. He squared off, he outthought, better tactics, and he won in under 45 minutes.
Amazing. Where does this love of history come for you? I know you're a big sports fan, you're a journalist. Where does this love of history come from?
I don't know. I guess I had great teachers. And when people say, I don't love history, I say, wait a second, do you like stories? And they say, yeah, you like movies. Well, what if I told you these stories happen, and they're your stories? It's America's stories. And if I told you this took place in a compelling way, and you could learn more about who you are and why we're here, I think it kills 3 birds with 1 stone. And that's what people have. I think people that buy the book are not historians. They're not teaching at Harvard. I get it. But I keep it accurate, we keep it moving, and in my mind, the person that buys the book's got kids to take care of, a house to run, 2 jobs to take. So it's got to be quick, concise, and make you want to stay with it. And that's where the passion comes from. I think if I could tell a story and sell the American story, because I get kind of worried today that people don't understand we're in an exceptional nation. When some of our leaders can't answer that question, that bothers me. When kids can't answer that question, it bothers me.
It's a very great read. As a matter of fact, not only did I read it, but I bought the audiobook so I can listen to it. You do a great job of delivering it.
One of the hardest things we can do, by the way, is audiobook.
Really?
Yeah, because here's the one thing. When you write, okay, but I'm not reading. And then when you get to these French names, and they insisted on naming things after using their language, that's the problem, right? And so when I got to the New Orleans chapter, it was a monster.
Well, you would not know it. You do a great job.
Oh, thank you. I think some French people would. I've had people already tell me a little. How do you say that lake? Guilty as charged.
Brian's book, Andrew Jackson and the Miracle of New Orleans, is available right now wherever books are sold. Stay with us. We're coming right back with much more CBN NewsWatch. The weekend is here, and in case your plans include heading to the movies, our friends at Plugged In Online are reviewing this week for us, Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. Take a look.
Wow, this is a fun group. Welcome to detention.
Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle follows 4 detention-bound teens as they're assigned the boring task of cleaning out an overstuffed school storage room.
Yo, what's this?
A game for those who seek to find a way to leave their world behind.
But things don't stay boring for long after they discover an old video game console with a game they've never heard of, something called Jumanji. With a flip of the switch and a thunder-like rumble of jungle drums, they are immediately drawn into the game's digital jungle setting, literally becoming the avatars they chose. Nerdy Spencer is suddenly an over-muscled Dr. Bravestone. Football hero Fridge becomes his short sidekick. Shy girl Martha turns into a Lara Croft-like battler. And the completely narcissistic Bethany is now a tubby male cartographer named Sheldon.
Oh, Bethany, don't look at it! No!
Together, they must save Jumanji from a curse before this game's world's deadly inhabitants chew and stomp them out of existence. Now, there's definitely some fun and some broad believe-in-yourself lessons to be had here. But unfortunately, while trying to craft something for the typical 13-year-old's enjoyment, the film's writing team dumbed things down and sexed things up way too much. There are way too many gender-blurring gags and a lot more foul language than you might be expecting in a kid's pick. So I'm giving this new Jumanji just 2.5 game overs out of 5 for family friendliness. For an in-depth review of this film, or really anything else at your local box office, be sure to check out PluggedIn.com. plugging you into the movies. I'm Bob Olszewski for Focus on the Family's Plugged In Movie Review.
Time now for your Friday Faithful, and as we wrap the year 2017, I would like to leave you with this thought. If the people and situations in your life are not helping you to evolve and elevate, it may be time to eliminate them from the heart of your life. With that word, be sure to make this a fabulous Friday and a wonderful weekend. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch, but the news continues with more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. Be sure to take the time to tell us what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that by emailing newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Once again, make this a fabulous Friday and have a wonderful weekend, and Happy New Year to you.